Ricky, will you see who one person's talking? Will you put it on that one person or what? If you do, just let us know. I'll be able to see it anyway. But it was just if you can, that is. I know it takes a bit of work.
I'm going to close this curtain a wee bit. Give me 2 seconds.
Right. Hello and welcome to the. Come on, you.
Sorry, mate.
Good start.
Hello and welcome to the Glasgow PT podcast, episode 45. It's Isolation for the Nation, part 6. I'm joined here today. Scott Simpson's back. Welcome back, mate.
Hello, how we doing? All right?
After your hiatus in the last episode, where were you? What was more important than this?
I can't remember, actually. What day?
Can't even remember.
I know.
Can't even remember. Jeez, oh man.
Right,
You
anyway.
it, didn't you?
No, never. I think I did. Anyway, Scott's back, which is good to see. But we're also joined again by Mr. Dale Buck Fitness. Dale,
How are we? I'm good, mate. How are you?
Very well, mate. Very well. It's good to get you back in.
Thank you for having me back.
Good man. After the last one, which was cracking, it went doing really, really well, and which I knew it would anyway. Just getting you on board, so I'll be looking forward to hear how the week's been going for you, mate. The last sort of week to 10 days, as well as Scott, and hopefully between the three of us, we can give some clarity, some understanding, some relatability, all that good stuff, so that people can leave this podcast feeling better and good. So how have you been, Dale? You want to start, mate? How have you been the last sort of 10 days, mate? It's been a bit of a roller coaster for everybody.
I think it's kind of been the same for, as you said, for everybody. I think you mentioned it a few weeks ago. It's that kind of buffer week, innit? It's like that week between Christmas and going back to the New Year. You don't really know what day it is. Everybody's kind of in the same boat. We don't really know what's happening. It's like one day you're prepping your week for the next week on a Friday, and then boom, everything's shut. You're just kind of left there in limbo. Unsure what's going on.
Aye.
But it's been not too bad. I've been trying to keep myself a bit more busy, try to keep as much of a routine as I possibly can, keeping sleeping patterns roughly the same, all that sort of stuff, and just try to make the best of the situation, to be honest.
Aye, mate. I think it's fair to say that the buffer week we mentioned is probably now a buffer 10 days. It's because, as like you said, mate, when you think you've got one thing dialed in, another curveball comes, or the mind goes a wee bit again. And I think for the main part, me and Scott discussed it in previous podcasts about certain metrics like sleep is just going to be the number one now, I think, across the board.
Yeah.
We did talk in depth about, whether this is a good time to diet or not. But certainly for what can't be argued or disputed is the sleep thing. I know the only thing that got me out a lot, mate, we're all the same here. We all get up about 5 o'clock in the morning, normally. But I don't know about yours, but now I'm about 8 o'clock, half 8.
I'm 8. I'm 12:8. Yep. Most that's kind of what I'm keeping the 8 hours between 12 o'clock and then 8 o'clock, roughly, getting up about the same time. Don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely loving it. I'm taking it all in, man. I'm taking it as it comes.
Definitely, mate. I'm the same. The only thing that's got me out of that, what I did find, and it's something Scott mentioned in previous podcast, is it just if you let it drag on too long, it becomes counterproductive. Not in the sense of feeling guilty for lying in necessarily, but more less time to do stuff and be productive. And I felt so. Yeah. Scott made the example as you get to 4 o'clock and you're like, "Fuck, the to-do list is a bit too long. Maybe I do need to claw it back just a tad." What about you, Scott? When you getting up?
I'm getting up about 6. I quite like getting up early, but I just enjoy it. I get up early and I go for my morning walk. Me and the Alexandra Park morning runners, just getting our steps in, getting it done. I still quite like getting up at that time. I mean, it's not like I don't feel like have to be super strict with it though. Like the other morning, I lay in bed till like maybe 6:30, 6:45, something like that, and stuff like that. You don't have the same necessity to get up at that time, but I quite like getting up early though. I just quite enjoy it. I'm still kind of going to bed at a reasonable time as well, and getting up pretty early. That's just a routine that I like. I just enjoy it.
Yeah, I think for the 3 years, mate, like I speak for myself here, and I know Scott's kind of similar, but in a normal working week, come 9:30, 9:45, I am like that already. Yeah. So I'm finding it tough the later parts at night, when really it's like, again, it's like our clients. It's just don't be so hard on yourself. You have nothing major like wake up for at 6 a.m, 5 a.m. So let it happen. Watch that film or whatever. So I was finding that a wee bit tricky to adjust to. I think we could all agree on that sleep is going to be the biggest thing to either make your day a productive one, or whatever productive looks like for you. That is, for Scott, it's getting up and getting that walk. For me, I prefer to do a bit of work first thing. I feel as if I knock a few things off the list, by mid-afternoon I can chill. So that's just the way I work it, because I feel it's on my mind. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, get that fucking off my mind.
Yeah, I'm roughly the same. I think usually, well, to be honest with you, it's never something I really get enjoys getting up like that. Maybe 7:30, 8 o'clock, getting up, making breakfast, and I would sit down, eat my breakfast, and kind of do a bit of work either on the laptop or just write some stuff out or whatever I need to do. Start planning my day ahead. And that's honestly, I've really been enjoying it. Like, usually my routine would be a bit, probably, maybe not for you still, I'm not too sure, but I know, Scott, if you're doing still one-to-ones and a lot, well, having a full calendar there, it's pretty gung-ho on it. It's as soon as you're that second half of your day, usually it's you're back in, you're home for maybe 8:30. Sometimes you're home to 9 o'clock, and then that's kind of your downtime for an hour, and then you're into bed, and then you're right back up again. So I'm kind of enjoying the fact where I can get a lot done at the start of the day, and then, as you said, kind of winding down and chilling mid-afternoon to night time and watching that film at night.
Yeah, mate, I totally agree with you. That's something that I'm glad you said that, because this is something I mentioned to Scott before as well. I'm almost like, I've been saying to Scott for a while that, I'm looking in a 6 months, 12 months perspective. And, I think for some trainers, they have a different version of what the end goal looks like, or what the next goal looks like. And naturally for some PTs, it's, fully online or whatever that is. I've had a wee taster for it the last 2 weeks. Don't get me wrong, it's in very different circumstances. It's in circumstances where one of the biggest tools has been taken away, which is the gym. So, but what I have seen, mate, is like you said, getting that big open window, and I'm like to myself, right, I sound like Charlie Nicholas there. I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm sitting there thinking, I watched that collage last night, and it was brilliant. He does one. He does one where he's like talking to somebody as well, and he goes, and I'm sitting there thinking, he's sitting there thinking, no, he's under
Little Charlie.
But no, I would. That's what I was saying. It like Dale said, it's managed to open up a good 3 or 4 hours, and I'm going, man, I could get used to this. There's a lot of work I could get done. I could really offer a service that I've never offered before, and I think we're all going to level up after this in some degree. Certainly the good trainers, anyway, and because it's recently all been what you're offering your client. Even more so now. So I think we'll all come out the better coaches after this. For me, I've dipped my toe in fully online. I do miss the one-to-one, albeit this online is a different version of what would be just only online. I have enjoyed it. It's been challenging, but this will cue me for the next point, which is what I want to ask Dale about. That the message he's been spreading across the socials is the optimistic versus positive thing. Where, a lot of people are looking and going, right, is it the time to be positive? Is it the time to, again, these words they mean different things for different people. But what I like the deal is could you just let us know what you were thinking behind that, and what message you want to get across between optimism and positivity?
Right. So I said it on my socials, obviously, before, but I think when you're trying to be, especially in situations like this, if you're trying to be positive all the time, it's like you're almost lying to yourself. Like, everybody is trying to, and I don't want to say don't be positive, right? That's not what I'm saying. But when you're trying to be positive all the time, you end up kind of lying to yourself, because at the end of the day, things aren't always going to be great, and it's people are kind of going, oh, it's all fine, we'll all be great, everything's hunky dory, there's nothing to see here, just keep on going by, keep on going. It's not right. There's this situation is shit. It is a shitty time for a lot of people, and the fact that you're trying to say to yourself, "Oh, it's fine, don't worry about it," and you're almost kind of burying your head in the sand. So if try to be more optimistic instead of trying to be positive all the time. If you think about being optimistic, you need to realise that this situation and this kind of current state that everybody's in is going to eventually come to the end. And it's what can you do in this time right now to better yourself, to make once this situation is done, what can you do now to when this is all finished, to come out the other end and be 10 times better? Or you maybe write that book that you've wanted to write, or learn a new language, whatever it may be. It's just been a wee bit more optimistic, instead of try to lie to yourself and say, oh, everything's hunky-dory, and actually face the truths and the facts, and just go head first in what you need to get done.
Yeah, mate, I think it's a similar concept to like the difference between discipline and motivation as well, isn't it? Where, you know, we're not always motivated, but when motivation slips, that's where discipline comes in. And I think that's spot on, mate. That's something that I never really took an angle that way with. So I'm glad when I saw you writing that, I was like, right, I need to get him to speak a bit more in depth about that, because it's just like being realistic, mate. You know, you might look. It's that whole comparison thing, isn't it? It's like looking and going, you know, that person's always motivated. They're killing their home workouts. You know, why? I just can't get into that. And that's something, Scott, you mentioned a similarity with that as well, mate. With the whole point of being disciplined and motivated. And you when you did all your sort of check-ins with clients, that's when you identified all that kind of stuff, wasn't it?
Definitely, yeah. I think that it's I like the way it, like Dale's kind of put it. I think that it's because I suppose it depends on how you define these things, but being positive is more of a state, isn't it? It's more of a state you're in. It's more like, it's like feeling stressed as a state, feeling happy as a state. Do you know what I mean? And you only have so much. You can try and do things to put yourself in certain states, but ultimately it's still a state that you're in. And I think that optimism is more like a sort of mindset. It's more like you can have an optimistic mindset despite being in a negative state, if you like. Do you know what I mean? And I think that it's something that you can control more readily than whether or not you just always feel positive. So I agree. I think I understand 100% where he's coming from. I think it's a good way of putting it as well,
Yeah. Love it, mate. Right, so just off the back of that and the perception that people see about each other, and one of the biggest things that I've kind of mentioned to you guys before we went on air was the whole you do you mindset. And you know, a fellow trainer made a post on it yesterday, and you know, by no means is this aimed at them. I engaged with the person. It was a good post. What I'm meaning is the people who have a different perception of what you do you is. So for me, like I translate some people who say you do you, and almost as like, do you, but don't do any more than me, please. That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
And how do I see it like that? Because it's like, do I go to the gym? Don't go. Do I go for a run? Don't go. You know, want to eat your crisps and chocolates that's in the cupboard? Do it. Just do you. Just do what's best for you in this tough, stressful time. And I challenge that, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm sitting there thinking,
yes,
he's going to be my heat now. But no, like I challenge that thought, because it's like, well, why did you go runs in the first place? Because they make you feel good. Endorphins, you feel great after it. So I'm trying to get people to think, no, remember that time. Remember every time you after a run, how good you feel. Remember the picture of your calories burned. You know, these sort of things is, so it's like, you do you, but don't do any more than me, please, because it makes me feel shite. And it's like, well, I challenge that, and I'm thinking, like, don't, like, do something that makes you happy, but bear in mind, the stuff that they're telling you not to do is so they feel better about themselves. And I'll give you an example, right, with the social trends that people follow these days, where you guys will have seen the meme of the kind of heavier guy running to his, like, the living room with all the snacks in his hand, and it's like me in quarantine, and it's a laugh and it's a joke, and that's fine. I'm all for that. But what I see, how I see that now, is funny for people, relatable for people. It's so me, as they say, and it's almost like, right, well, that's a social trend you're following, that it's funny to snack a lot during quarantine and lockdown. And as long as that's taken with a pinch of salt and laughs and jokes, cool. But there's a deeper meaning for a lot of people. A lot of old habits that you guys fully aware of, that we've gotten people out of. Do you know what I mean? We've got these people out of snacks. Dale, you want to say something?
I think even at that whole situation, this happens like this happens all the time. Even before this situation actually happened, people, and it's mostly people that are closest to you, and they don't want you to be doing the things that they want to do, because they will feel guilty, as you said, for their lack of action that they want to take towards their goals. They don't want to do what you're doing because they want the results that you're trying to change or try to chase. Sorry, but they don't want to put the work in, and they try and guilt trip you to make you feel the same way as them. I do what I'm doing, so they feel better for what they are not doing.
Exactly that, mate. It's like people actively telling people not to lose fat. Scott, how did you frame that, mate? I love the way you framed that in the text to me. People are actively telling people not to lose fat so that it makes them feel better about not losing fat. Now, for me, check the messages, Scott, because you worded it very well, and I wanted to cue for what you're going to say. But for me, this is the perfect time for me to diet, right? Not because I'm a PT or a coach, right? Because I had planned to diet last Sunday. I had it in my diary for months. It was 12 weeks to my holiday. On the lead up to that, my training was shocking. I was literally very little weight training. I was prioritising my business. I was coming into a peak with my business. And my physique was shocking. It was by no means acceptable, right? I felt horrible. I felt bloated. So for me, that was the time I had planned to diet. I already wasn't really killing weight training, although I'll need that further down the line if I want to retain muscle, right? Mm-hmm. Bear with me. But for me, my biggest problems is Chinese food, chippies. When I flicked the switch, they're a lot more manageable, but I just had to lose fat. And when I look at my schedule for my clients, it's a lot of HIIT-based stuff. It's totally not what I do. Do you know what I would normally do? I would do a bodybuilder approach, right? I would go on the incline treadmill for 20 minutes, 3 times a week. Check my check-ins, probably lose fat quite quickly because I've went from one extreme to another and I've got muscle mass. Then I would up the cardio, 35 minutes, 40 minutes, week 4, week 5. That's the kind of perception I have with dieting now because I've took on too much of a bodybuilder approach or too much of a lazy approach. Mm-hmm. See, now I'm jumping about in my living room doing 20 minutes a HIIT, sweating like I've never sweated since PE or football, since my football days. Now, is that ideal for muscle loss?
Still kicking the ball.
I'm still kicking the ball. I still got a left leg on me. But is that ideal for muscle retention? No. But can I get that back? Of course I can. Of course I can. I'm keeping my protein high. I'm feeling like week 1 already. I'm feeling way less bloated. I have a bag in my cupboard, right? And it's up the top of my cupboard. And because Scott will know I fluctuate in weight quite a lot, right?
Right.
Because just bodybuilding days of bulking and then buying clays and thinking I'm big when really I was just too much fat. So I have a bag that's only cutting clothes, right? It's like Gymshark t-shirt snap that are medium, small. Right. And then I have other stuff that's medium, it's loose up here, loose at the belly but tight up at the top. Do you know what I mean? That's right. And I know that's a problem because it shouldn't be like that, right? And I'm telling you straight from my heart, that's what I do. But it's because I prioritise other things. So for me right now, week 1, I feel great. I feel fit. I feel healthy. I've never been. My mobility's a lot better. I'm doing it to suit my clients, obviously, but it's massively helped me. So I'm being optimistic, like Dale said. I'm turning it on its head. If you asked me if we did this podcast 8 days ago, you wouldn't have seen me being as optimistic as this. I felt shite. I didn't feel great at all. And I wasn't very positive about this whole situation. Mm-hmm. So I made the most of it. And that's the perfect time for me to diet. So what I'm saying is if you follow the social trend and you think that was the perfect time for me to diet and you see a social trend that, no, guys, relax, chill out. Mm-hmm. You're going like that. You've just stopped somebody from potentially reaching goals and progressing. So that to me says that's when it's a problem. When people are actively telling people not to progress or not to even maintain at this point. We're going on about immune systems. Look after your immune system during this time. So don't exercise and just keep snacking and drinking wine. Come on. There's always a balance. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So see it tapping my immune system that I want to watch and I'm potentially going to get ill. Let's add hangovers into the mix and all. Come on.
Exactly.
Scott.
Yeah, mate, I think what I said, I think I looked it up there and what I said to you, it was like sometimes you get the feeling that people are like personally offended like by someone kind of having a goal at this time because obviously there's a lot of bad things happening in the world and there's almost this kind of there's an element of it, like there's just an element of it of like how dare you have some sort of like aspirations during this time where like there's all this bad things happening and that's and it does come down to like the thing is what we're kind of touching on here quite a lot is the role of kind of social influence in all this, because so as a trainer, as a coach, you should never be pushing your agenda on anybody. I don't know the post you're talking about, but so I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking in general. That's the equivalent of like someone sitting down in front of you and you telling them their goal before they've opened their mouth. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to decide. It's up to you, based on reason and logic, based on your situation. Is there additional stress in my life just now, based on everything that's happening? You know, how much has my situation changed? What is accessible to me, and therefore what's realistic? And if you decide that within all that, because you know that information, that here's what's realistic, I still want to try and achieve that, then that's fine. That's you. That's absolutely up to you. And the same thing goes for if somebody turns around and says, do you know what? I have got additional stress just now. Maybe there's money worries, financial worries, job worries. Maybe it's stress of people in your family might get ill or whatever. It's important to take note of that as well and factor that into the equation. And then maybe this might be a time to sort of just take the foot off the gas with that kind of thing and just focus on kind of maintaining your health. But I think that it's an interesting point about the kind of influence that other factors in society can have on people, though. You know, we kind of harp on quite a lot about kind of the role of controlling your environment and all this. You have to try and control your environment because we can be influenced by things. We can be. I read a thing the other day that I thought was quite interesting. It's not fitness related, but it's quite interesting, where it was the British government, in order to try and get people to pay their taxes on time. When people were late paying their taxes, what they used to do is they used to send this letter, and it used to say, here's why you should pay your taxes. Here are a list of things it goes towards. Here's how it contributes towards society, etc. And year on year, it didn't make a difference. And then what they did was they added just one sentence into that letter. And the sentence was, every year, 9 out of 10 people pay their taxes on time. And that caused the numbers of people paying their taxes on time to rocket up the way, because it's social influence. If you think you're the only one not doing something, you're going to be pulled in a certain direction. And I think that, especially as like trainers and coaches, you have to be aware of that. You have to be aware of how kind of susceptible people are to being pulled and pushed in certain directions. So the message always has to be, you have to decide what's right for you in any given situation. Because there is, I know what you mean. There's a lot of that just now, where it's almost like you shouldn't be doing this just now, or you shouldn't be doing that just now. And ultimately, it always comes down to, well, it depends.
Yeah,
it really depends. It depends on you as an individual.
Yeah, I think that's like, funny enough, every single point of this full industry or any form of fitness always depends on that individual. As you said, like, it always comes down to what someone's situation currently is. I mean, it could be someone who, especially from like, if we're talking about like a fat loss point of view. Of course, if that was a goal before this kind of started, where your goal was fat loss, and let's say you're an NHS worker and you're on the front line and you're working well over overtime, more than hours than what you've ever done. Your job is the most stressful it's ever been. You're literally on the front line, saving people's lives every single day, seeing people die every day. It's like, it is insane. So maybe the last thing you need to really think about right now is trying to progress in your fat loss goals, whereas because it is a lot of other stress involved there, so you don't need to add that extra bit of stress on thinking about, I need to watch my calories, I need to exercise more. Maybe looking at, for again, being a bit more optimistic and realistic of what your goals are, instead of thinking about, okay, this is the time to lose fat and push on with that. Maybe it's just time for me to, as we all try and say, is maintain. And that is just something as simple as keeping the body stimulated. If that's a 15-minute HIIT workout, you're in the house and just doing a few star jumps, whatever it may be, of course your fat loss goals and strength performance, all that sort of stuff, isn't going to go any forward. It's, unless you've got a massive home gym with a lot of resistance, that's not going to happen for the majority of people anyway. So just trying to stimulate the body, get out walking, keep your body moving, and it's just trying to maintain and stimulate your full body while we're going through this kind of time, and try and let this maintain instead of trying to push forward in your fat loss goals. But also, I think it comes back to the point what you're saying as well. Like, this could be, again, the best opportunity for someone to be progressing in their fat loss goals, because there's no more distractions anymore. No one, some people that before this kind of started, the main reason they maybe weren't making as much progress when it come to their fat loss goals was the amount of distractions that they had. It was, we had the football to go to, or I've got a party this week, or I've got my mate's 30th, or I've got a night out, it's a work's leaving do, and it's the middle of February, we get work's leaving do's, you know what I mean? Like, all these distractions, takeaways, as you say, it's harder to get all these things now. You can't go out and do social events. You've no got birthday parties to go to. You're not going to go to the dancing. You need to book in for some takeaways to actually get some food. Do you know what I mean? So these distractions that normally knock you off course while you're dieting and before COVID is no longer there. So this could be the opportunity for you to do this. You've also got a lot more free time in your hands. If you've got more resistance in your gym, you're taking a bigger focus on your training because you've got nothing else to do, and it makes you feel better after you train. You're probably maybe moving a bit more as well because you've got more time to go 2 walks a day. Before, you never even, because you'd go to work, you can be bored and come back, you'd be like, I can't be asked going to walk. Do you know what I mean? So there's pros and cons for everybody, and I think it does come down to everybody's situation and personal preference of what their situation is.
Spot on, mate. That's some of the stuff that we said, Scott, in the last podcast, where I've never seen so many people hit their step count. So there's metrics like that. Let's be clear here as well. Me, Scott, or Dale are by no means sitting here going to put people in massive calorie deficits 2 weeks to the holiday. We're never going to do that. We're not saying, when we say the term diet, we mean continue to follow a structured plan that you had agreed with your trainer, i.e. hit your calorie target. It could even be maintenance, but you call it a diet. I mean, there's terminology all over the place, and we're scared to say what we want. When I say still stick to a diet, I mean still stick to structure, control, macros, check in, like the whole process that can make you feel a million times better. Scott, did you jot anything down you want to add for that, mate, or was that for?
No, I was just kind of taking a few notes there, but I agree with everything that Dale was saying. I think a lot of it comes down to when you're kind of thinking about, does this affect things? How does things change in the given situation? I think stress is a big player. I think it depends on how it's affecting you personally. There could be additional stress for a lot of people. The plus side is there could also be like the element of control that Dale was talking about. There's a high chance that you might be in more control just now than you normally would be. It just depends on where those kind of things are sitting for people. It's also, I suppose, it depends on what your goal was beforehand. I've had conversations with clients we were in the process of dieting for holidays. They're not going on holiday now, so they don't have that same sort of incentive, and it's just a case of kind of, right, okay, let's realign. So it is very, very, very individual to individual, and I don't think anyone needs to feel bad in any way, shape or form because they've got some sort of goal in mind at this time, or even taking advantage of the kind of potential pros that the kind of current situation has for someone who maybe has a specific goal. I don't think it doesn't mean you're not doing your bit or you don't care or any of that kind of stuff. So I think that the other side of it is being okay and being realistic if it is a case of taking the foot off the gas, because you maybe, like Dale says, you maybe don't need the additional stress. When you dieting's a stressor in itself, so kind of putting more stress on top of stress just makes no sense. It just makes no sense. As long as you're being realistic, reasonable, logical, then you can make the decision either way that's best for you, and that should be the only thing that really matters.
Yeah, mate, exactly. That's where, like, when people do this, right? We've spoken about this before with comparing. It's comparison, right? This is why people lead into this. They're dying and doing home workouts versus the snackers and the people who aren't doing anything and feeling bad, and it could potentially make them collide. This is what's come, and it doesn't have to be. You don't have to pick a side. If on Monday you're this side and Tuesday that side, it's fine, and it depends on you in terms of your goals. Now, this is what we spoke about before on the podcast, where is it a bad time to diet? And you use that and go, oh, it is. It must be. Everybody's saying it's social trends. I'm out. Pull the plug. And it's like, well, first of all, your holiday's in September. You said we've already been dieting or sticking to a plan for 8 weeks. You're really ready to, go back to all those bad habits. Don't make me send you your first before picture. Don't make me remind you how you felt. But do you know what I mean? Realistically,
100%. Yeah.
We don't want you to spiral. It's our job to protect your progress, protect your mind, and hopefully steer you and steer the ship. Even if the ship goes back to the deck, we've steered it and it's not getting shipwrecked. Do you know what I mean? That's where, how do we combat that then as an individual deal? I want you to talk about sense of accomplishment, mate, and what you've been sort of getting your clients to focus on over the last week or so. And then Scott, I'll come to you just for an update.
Yeah, well, it was actually one of the boys who worked with MTN who kind of put it on his socials, and he was speaking about it. It was Alex that was speaking about it, and he was pretty much saying how good he felt after he was doing something that he necessarily didn't want to do. And it was just talking about that sense of accomplishment of your day. Like if you write a to-do list out and you get through that to-do list, you've got that sense of accomplishment straight away, that you feel that you've actually done something. So I think it's very important when it comes to structuring our day and making sure that everything's kind of planned out. Even like it's something as simple as like planning in the time where you watch TV. It's something simple. Or right, okay, last week I hardly drank any. Literally last week I hardly drank anywhere near as much water as what I had to. Like the inflammation in my face was ridiculous. Like I was just felt so inflamed, and I just hardly drank any water because my body was used to drinking so much water every single day. I didn't have that structure of being in the gym, being on the gym floor and drinking as much as I normally would. But what I did this week, I said, right, okay, right, it's time to make sure I'm getting that water intake in every single day that I can. And it's just something simple. And it's that sense of accomplishment that you get at the end of the day, or when you do something that you necessarily don't want to do. Again, like that 15-minute HIIT workout or that half an hour walk outside. You might not want to do it because it's pissing the rain, but if you go out and you do it, you're going to feel a lot better once you do it.
Yeah, totally agree with you, mate. For me, it's like I put my to-do list up on my story, sent it into my groups, and one or two of them was like, "Where you at? Come 5 o'clock." They were like, "And you nearly done your stuff?" And I'm like, "Fuck, they're holding me to that." Do you know what I mean? And when I did come, like you guys will admit, there's aspects of this game that just take a bit longer than other aspects, and we potentially put off. For me, it's diet plans, things like that. That sort of when I go like, no, do you know what? You're doing them and nothing else so far. Because sometimes it's easy in it to look and go, I should be doing this. I'm going to put a wee post up.
You're not getting that instant gratification on it. Exactly. You're not getting that wee. Oh, I feel like sitting. You're like, oh, that feels that's good.
Good feedback. We're all human, mate. We're all human. Yep. We want that gratification, but it's about us as individuals to go right. What am I going to do first? Get the shit out of the way. This isn't by any means a bad thing, but I got together everybody's kit and I was like, right, bands, kettlebells, dumbbells, what has everybody got? Right. And I made the plans and see the sense of relief after that now. That was on my to-do list. I mean, I was chipping away bits and bobs. People hadn't replied their kit yet. So that way I'm like, don't reply anyway, it's fine. But I made those plans and now I feel great for it. I feel like I'm set up. I feel like, the guys know what they're doing exactly, and that was my sense of accomplishment this week, was just doing that. So, and it's the same with these metafits. Honestly, like you guys will have your one-to-ones in your group class. See when that is done, as PTs as active as us, as one-to-one as us, like you finally feel like you're a PT again, and when you do your 6 or 8 hours of PT.
My first one was this morning. My first live was this morning, and that's the first that I've done. And I was buzzing. Honestly, like it was like I've never really took classes and stuff like that before. It was all just kind of one-to-one basis, and it was the first time I kind of got like I think it was like 5 or 6 people on, and it was just a wee trial run to see how the full system was working. And honest to God, what a buzz! It was brilliant to kind of feel that like being a coach again. You know what I mean?
Aye, because it has been hard. It's been hard for us to get. It's all right for people to feed back to us over check-ins, but to be able to deliver as close to it as possible, which is live. Scott, what about you, mate? Like, I know you've been doing it. You've been doing daily home workouts for your clients, or have you just been grouping it together and stuff like that?
Yeah, I've been doing just like so similar to you. They kind of see for the first 10 days of this, I was flat out, just for no other reason than it was a lot of transfer and a lot of one-to-one people onto more of an online structure. It was kind of information gathering, like you were saying, about kind of what kind of equipment do people have access to, and then kind of trying to put that into individual plans for them and kind of supplementing that at the same time with me doing these daily home workouts, which I've actually really enjoyed. I've really enjoyed mixing it up a wee bit, changing it up, kind of having to think outside the box a little bit. It's a little bit of added pressure, a new pressure, and I've quite enjoyed that. And it's obviously challenging me physically in a slightly different way as well, something I've not done in a wee while. So, yeah, I've definitely enjoyed that side of it, and I think planning ahead's been important. Otherwise, I would still be chipping away at these things because I just wouldn't have established a structure, and I would have procrastinated. I mean, like I'm not sitting here saying I don't procrastinate, or like I'm not sitting here saying that I've got some sort of military style regiment on the go. It's not like that at all. But I think one of the things I had noted down here was the point that I think sometimes when we talk about structure and we talk about having a structure, it sounds like it's only a thing that you need if you have a specific goal. And see, just now, it's not. It's bigger than that. You whether you realised it or not, you've always had structure. It was just maybe more your work that kept you anchored to it or something like that. So I think that it's important to recognise that when we talk about structure, we're not just talking to someone who wants to achieve fat loss or build strength and muscle, who has physique goals or performance goals. Which I think this is the type of thing that I genuinely think would benefit everybody. And again, I'm not pushing an agenda. If you want to spend the next month in your pajamas, honestly, I would not judge you either way. I could understand, if anything. Do you know what I mean? But I do think that for a lot of people, they will get a lot of value, regardless of their goal, in just sitting down and thinking, what do I want to achieve? Do you know what? What's the thing I've been complaining about for the kind of 3 months before this all kicked off that I never had time to do? And maybe I could do that now, do you know what I mean, depending on what it was. So I think that structure is not just for people who have a specific goal. I think it's going to help everybody just now a little bit, just to kind of maintain some sort of semblance of normality. And the first 10 days for me, that was quite easy because I was super, super busy with plans and putting things in place and like thinking, right, how am I going to do this? I think we've all become aware that it's not going to be 3 weeks. So you kind of have to fasten your seatbelt, get yourself a proper routine and something that you can kind of stick with over the next maybe 8 or so weeks, who knows. But yeah, no, it's sort of started to, once I got all that done, like you were saying, Breezy, about the plans, it has become more normal and more of a certain pace. I found myself yesterday, I cleaned a room that's already clean. I don't know if anyone's done this yet, where I'm like under furniture and all that. Yeah. I think that's the first sign. That's the first sign that it's starting to slow down a wee bit. But I think having structure is important. I think anybody can benefit. You don't have to have a big goal. I think it's just worthwhile.
Yeah, mate, because it's for your mental health as well. People who listen, if you're listening to this just because you like listening to a Glasgow-based podcast and you don't really go to the gym or whatever, then you understand that you need structure as well for your own sanity, especially in this time. Whether that be waking up a wee bit earlier, or whether it be just setting an alarm, or things that Dale says about getting hitting your water target, all those things, it applies to everybody. And I think that's sometimes where, as society, sometimes it's like, I've said this to you before, Scott, but it's like everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but not everybody's entitled to their own facts. It's like you could even go as far as saying having a structure for mental health could almost be factual or almost scientifically proven. And when it comes to dieting and continuing to lose fat or whatever, you could almost go as far as saying structure's needed in some ways. So I think what people need to take from this podcast is that whatever structure looks like for you, it may not look like someone else you see who sends their 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m. Yeah. They've got every hour mapped out. Because let's be honest, right now, I don't know who's got that. And if you have, you've probably got some set up at home. Your life's not been affected by any of this.
Yeah.
So that's where the comparison thing needs to stop as well. Cool. One of the things I want to kind of get out there and ask you guys your thoughts, and just jump in whenever you feel the need. And it's something that I'll talk about in my socials coming up next week is, and I don't pretend to be Piers Morgan here, right? But it's the people who are watching rolling news, right? So Cheryl had it in the background. She was working away. It was on in the background. I had my laptop out. I was working away. But you know yourself, when you start to procrastinate, you start focusing on other things and watching things and all that like this. It was rolling, and it must have been on for about 2.5 hours, 45 minutes. And I started to feel myself getting a wee bit thinking about it too much. And it's just a standard piece of advice not to watch rolling news, because it is nothing but bad. Here's how long.
2 seconds. Dogs have came.
Here's how. Nothing but here's do you know what I mean, Scott? It's constantly just when you're listening to rolling news, it doesn't go right. And now for the good news, it's not like that. Right now, it is all bad news, and it's hysteria, mate. Right. Did you have any tanks outside your front door?
Me, no.
Neither did I. Remember that?
Aye.
Tanks are due in. Know. I know somebody, my uncle's step-cousin. That's all right, mate. My uncle's step-cousin knows somebody in the army that they're going to be out tomorrow night. Are they? But I didn't have any army outside my front door. So this is just me. This is just me sort of trying to reassure people that I'm by no means saying this is not a problem in a pandemic. I'm just trying to reassure people that a lot of things are getting blown out of proportion, And if you keep watching the rolling news, you're going to go mental. You're going to go mad.
Oh, crazy. I think it affects a lot of older people as well. Like, you see it from my gran and stuff like that all the time. That's all they're doing. Like, they've not really got socials to follow, or they don't really know the ins and outs. The only thing they've got to tell them what's going on in the world is the news. And it's like trying to watch that all day, every day. They just panic stations straight away.
Yep, exactly, mate. And Scott, were you guys say something before I
know. I think that this is one of the things that I think, like, when it comes to pros and cons of this situation, of both categories, there are some. I think there is like a risk of like people over consuming the news. Do you know what I mean? Because the news is always going to be geared towards the negative. It's always going to be that way because that's what kind of sells when it comes to news, to be honest. It's not that there's some sort of mad agenda behind it. We're drawn towards negative news. That's the reason why news is so negative. It's like if you've ever, I read a book called Factfulness. If you've ever read that book, it goes into in quite a lot of good detail. We are evolutionary. We're designed that way. We're kind of designed to be drawn towards the negative because that's the thing that is going to keep us alive, right? Back in the day, that was the thing that was going to help us survive. So that's the reason why the news is the way it is. So you have to take back some control from that. And if you are just sitting and mindlessly consuming it, then you have to be aware of that and recognize it. And if it is making you feel shit, then you need to do something about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly. And I also think it even comes down to what you're consuming on a daily basis. Never mind just from the news, but even like on social media. Right now, this is the most right time for people just to sit and it's just this all day, and it's just continuous scrolling and scrolling. And I always say it as well. You are what you consume as well, whether that be nutrition or what you're actually consuming on a daily basis through content. Is that negative feedback you're getting from that, or is that an actual positive feedback you're getting for your content that you're consuming? I think you touched on it the last podcast that we were on, Chris. It's like you use your social media to just pretty much put out content. You very rarely consume much, and when you do, it's on what your current clients are doing right now and what they're looking for.
Yep, fellow trainers as well. Just so I'm very clued up on the marketplace. But totally, mate, it's like, what you consume. It's like right now we're being squeezed. We're being squeezed and tested. And if you're consuming rubbish, and if you're eating rubbish, and if your internal inner dialogue is pressured because everything else that's outside that you can't control, the news, the media, coronavirus, you can't control any of it. So then but your inner dialogue's telling you to worry because you're watching the news, and then we're being squeezed. So what's going to come out? And you're not exercising, not moving, not eating great. You know what's going to come out. So that's the sort of example that I give. Right now we're being squeezed, and it's all about what you consume, like Dale said, so that when you're being squeezed, it's like optimism, it's feeling a bit better, it's being a bit fitter, things like that. Is a good way of looking at it. So I think that's one of the biggest things. I think I'm not going to sit here and say to you that this isn't a big deal, like by any means. I'm just trying to listen, I've said this before, but Scott, Dale and I are literally, we can only help people in fitness, right? We're sitting here trying to encourage you to work out and maybe feel a bit better, still maybe diet if it works for you. But if you're frontline NHS, this isn't for you. We're just trying to encourage people to look away from the noise and the fear and the hysteria and go, right, what does your day look like? Could you drink more water? Actually, are you isolating with your partner and you two years have got a couple of dumbbells and kettlebells? 2 years work from home? Could you both just double team and go for this? Mm-hmm. So that's all we're trying. That's all the kind of points that we're trying to get across here. Guys, you've got anything else to add? You want to get out there?
Let's see if I've put anything in my notes here.
Yes.
No, I think we've kind of covered the majority of it, like distractions, and then obviously I think we've covered a lot of it. I think.
Yep. Awesome. Yep. Scott.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I agree. I think that I think it's all just about people kind of taking a little bit of control of things, and that's just going to help the way you feel, and it's going to help you feel productive and all the rest of it. That's kind of what a lot of this job just boils down to, is controlling what you can control. I feel like we've probably said it quite a lot, but it's really, really relevant.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, control what you can control. And also, again, sorry, before we go, I think it's just that touching on that full point of, like, if you can get 2 years just teaming up and doing it, but also the fact that just because your partner or the person you are in this household with does not want to be physically active, doesn't want to look after their nutrition or drink more water or do whatever you're trying to do, just because they don't want to do it does not mean that you have to go down to their level and feel guilty for trying to push on in this moment in time. It's you are there to look after yourself and make yourself feel better. Don't fall in and try and be guilt tripped to making your partner or your mum or your siblings feel better because they don't want to act or they don't want to do what you're trying to do and try and make you feel guilty.
Yeah, mate, exactly that. That's kind of the whole message of the podcast is back to the you do you, but understand that when you say that and you get that message out, you're not trying to pretend you're not trying to drag people back with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like it's a bit of a cop out. Look at her, she's telling people, or him, he's telling people, you do me, so it's all right. And it's like, well, is it you taking what do you see from that what you want to take? Because it, because where your mind's at. I would rather challenge that, guys. I'm always want to challenge the concept of popular trends. But yeah, spot on, Dale, mate.
Right.
Cool, awesome. Thanks for listening, guys. And obviously, as always, please share it. Dale will be no doubt on again very, very soon, especially given the circumstances. We'll try and get Dale in as much as we can in this time. It just fits in really well with what mine and Scott's values are. Big fan. So yeah,
appreciate
guys,
it, mate. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for coming in this Saturday. I hope everybody enjoyed it and have a good weekend.
Thank you.